I want to welcome you all of you to our Juneteenth Unity panel, Intersectionality in Action, which is presented by our partner, BetterHelp. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this panel. All of you receive some notebooks, but also if you open your notebook, you'll also notice that there is a gift card, promo card in there for 3 months off of free therapy. So, yeah, so really, really generous offer from our partners. So thank you so much. Let me introduce myself. So I'm Shana Stephenson. I'm the Chief Brand Officer of the New York Liberty. This is my 8th season with the team. And our Unity game and platform is one of my favorite because of what it represents. Just a brief history and background on our Unity platform. It started in 2016, driven by our players on the team at the time in response to the unjust killings of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling. They, along with other players in the league, participated in a media boycott at the time, and they told the media, we will not answer any basketball-related questions. We will only address what is currently happening in our country, in our society. And the Liberty as an organization at that time recognized the power in that and also remained committed to unity, committed to social justice work, gender equity. And so every year since then, we've dedicated one game to the Unity platform. And it's manifested in a number of ways through allyship and working with our fans to understand how they can lean in and be allies. In 2020, we dedicated that entire season, along with the league, to the Say Her Name movement. And Breonna Taylor. Last season, I can't remember last season's. Last season's platform was related to getting out the vote and just raising awareness around the political landscape at the time. And this season, this theme is inspired by it being 5 years since 2020. And the movement and moment that was happening at the time in our country at that time. So welcome to this year's panel. Also, our game is on Thursday. So our Juneteenth theme night is on Thursday. It's against the Phoenix Mercury. We have some really incredible programming to support that game. Halftime, there will be a performance by Alvin Ailey dance students along with, along with some of our own dancers. They will be performing a version of Revelations, which for those of you who are familiar know, it's just incredible. We will also have a spoken word performance by Urban Word. Yes, they're such talented young artists, and they've been performing with us almost annually at this time, right, Allie? For 4 years, so excited to welcome them back. We will also be activating with League of Women Voters to continue to raise awareness around this upcoming mayoral election, as well as encouraging people to write note to vote cards so they can remember to or remind themselves to vote. So, and that's just a few of the activations that will take place. So if you don't already have your ticket to our Juneteenth game on Thursday, I encourage you all to purchase one. So before we dive into our conversation and I introduce our incredible panelists, I wanted to just tee up intersectionality and what it means. So intersectionality, for those who aren't familiar, was a term coined by the great Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. She's also a friend of the Liberty, and she'll actually be in attendance at Thursday's game, and we look forward to hosting her. So this term was coined in 1989 as a way to define the unique experiences of discrimination faced by Black women who experience both racism and sexism simultaneously. The concept of intersectionality has become a widely used framework for understanding how various aspects of identity, such as race, gender, class, education, and sexuality, intersect to create unique experiences of oppression and privilege. As a league that is comprised of majority of women, majority Black, and some who self-identify as queer, intersectionality is heavily at play. Through this conversation, we will explore intersectionality in action and how it can be a powerful tool towards liberation. So I will start off by introducing our esteemed panelists. To my left is Joanne N. Smith. She is the executive director and founder of Girls for Gender Equity. And for those of you who do not know what Girls of Gender Equity represents, it works intergenerationally through a Black feminist lens to center the leadership of Black girls and gender-expansive young people of color in reshaping culture and policy through advocacy, youth-centered programming, and narrative shift to achieve gender and racial justice. Welcome, Joanne. Girls for Gender Equity is also our Commissioner's Cup organization that the team is playing for. And we have raised $10,000 so far for Girls for Gender Equity, so really excited about that. Also, we have 2024 WNBA champion, Jaylyn Sherrod. She is a guard on the New York Liberty. And she also holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from Colorado, as well as a master's in organizational leadership. And most recently, as recent as April, she received her master's degree in criminal justice and corrections. And then we also have Natasha Cloud, 2019 WNBA champion, 2022 WNBA assist leader, Dawn Staley Community Leadership Award winner in 2019, 2022 WNBA All-Defensive First Team, two-time WNBA All-Defensive Second Team, and activist, advocate, and just a dog, and just dope all around. Natasha Cloud, everyone. All right, so this first question is for all of you. Joanne, I'll start with you. Black women in sports and in other workspaces often face different expectation than their peers, be it emotional labor, criticism, or being labeled too vocal. How does intersectionality help us understand those double standards in media and a fan perception?
Coming in hot. I love it. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Shana, thank you for all you do.
Oh, thank you.
So intersectionality, especially when we think about Girls for Gender Equity and the young people there, really gives us a lens to understand the disparities that they face, that we face as Black women, as queer women, as people of different wealth means, within institutions, and then systemically. So it gives us a lens to truly understand how then the media portrays then Black women and girls, and ways in which we need to correct through narrative shift and culture shift, right? It gives us a lens to understand then why the disparities within healthcare happen and how it is that Black women suffer the most when it comes to parental disparities, and how it is that even economically and within spaces like schools, Black girls experience push out. They experience oftentimes being hyper-disciplined, as well as hypersexualized, and then seen as resistant, as seen as combative when they're really advocating for themselves, rather than being able to recognize the value and the strength in that. And so intersectionality gives us that lens and that language to peel back the layers. It also allows us to not internalize that something's wrong with us, right? If these institutions were never made really to accommodate and actually effectively made, right, to counter the narrative and the ways in which we move throughout life, then we're gonna internalize that as something's wrong with us, rather than address the systemic inequities that'll help impact us being able to move forward and have what we deserve in life through our innate being born and being deserving.
Jaylyn, do you have anything to add?
That was a lot.
Wow, how do I follow that? The whole time you were talking, this quote by Malcolm X came into my head about how the most disrespected person in America is a Black woman. And to that point, I just think being in these spaces, for one, it's a blessing, but two, it also does bring its challenges of having to always be mindful of how I navigate areas and situations that I'm in. And gratefully, I'm in a place where I feel like I can authentically be myself, but just navigating media, social media, interactions with people, you just kind of keep it in the back of your mind. how you want to be perceived, making sure you don't say the wrong thing. And it does get taxing more than anything to always try to have to navigate things that other people don't even have to think about. But yeah, so I was saying my experience in just navigating intersectionality in so many areas, because I went to school at Colorado. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. It was a total culture shock. Being from Birmingham, Alabama, I can go on a story about that in itself. So it's just so many experiences that have shaped and molded me to have the tools that I need that I should not have to have, because I shouldn't have to need tools to exist. But yeah, so I'll pass it to Tosh on that note.
Yeah, I think the intersectionality of what makes us us is to society and a system that has been set up to see us fail. It tells us that we're less than. It tells us that we're not meant to be. And what I think is the most beautiful part of our intersectionality is, right, of being a black woman who's also gay. I think that makes me powerful. But in our world, right, we're always told to, if I want to talk about politics, I'm told to shut up and just dribble the ball. If I talk about politics, I'm told to shut up because I'm a woman, or I shouldn't be in this space because I'm a woman. Then add on the layer of being black while touching on all these things. Now I'm typically made into a mad black woman or an angry black woman, but I'm just advocating for myself, what everyone across here has said. So I think it's a powerful thing of what the intersectionalities of all of us, the makeup of all of us is. I think it's a superpower when you go out into the world, but it definitely has been really tough to navigate, especially in a profession where there are constantly cameras and an expectation and a standard that is supposed to be. Again, what Jaylyn said, I think about being a part of an organization that supports us, our voices, even with where we are in the climate of our country today. I didn't hesitate to call Shana before a game and start to ask questions about, okay, I really care about being in New York. I want to get into good trouble. How do we do that? And to be met with acceptance and understanding and support, that's really unheard of in professional settings. So I am thankful to be here. I'm thankful to be on this panel with all of you. And I'm thankful for y'all being here for this conversation, because this is also a part of the progression of us moving forward.
Thank you for that, Tosh. I want to stick with you because in 2020, you made the very tough decision to sit out the 2020 season that was played down in Florida, the Wubble, and dedicate your season to protesting and raising awareness for the killings of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. Talk to us about your mindset at that time and what really went into that decision. And as you reflect on that 5 years later and where we are today, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, 2020 was a really hard time, as I feel like every year is a really hard time for some of us, but especially with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. It was really hard for me to sit in conversations. Obviously, COVID had hit at the same time, so as a player representative at that time for the Mystics, I couldn't even get on those calls to talk about what a bubble looked like or what a wubble looked like. I thought that was, for me as a black woman in America at that time, to sit and talk about basketball in the game when I'm like, that jersey doesn't protect us. The minute that we take that jersey off and we go home, we have the ability to be George Floyd or Breonna Taylor. I could wake up in my home and not be safe. That is like the biggest reality to me, to my life, to my family. And the idea of going into a wubble, which I want to say this first, every woman that went into that wubble was extremely strong and intentional in that wubble. The WNBA saved democracy in 2020, and there's no right way to go about activism. So while I felt very influenced to sit it out, I think I sat, I prayed. I'm really big on my faith and figuring out what the next part and the next steps of my life are through my relationship with God. And I just kept having this feeling of like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't go to a wubble where we can't leave. We can't leave the premises. We have to just be there, and we can't be on the streets. I knew I wanted to be in the rooms that legislation was being talked about. I wanted to be in the discussions of what are things that we can do with our platform, with our God-given platform, to implement change to the communities that we care so deeply about. I wanted to be marching. I wanted to be in the streets. I wanted to be on the ground. I think that was very intentional for me to be more hands-on because, again, I think as athletes we can be put on a pedestal a lot of times, but again, when we take those jerseys off, we are affected by all of this. So that was the driving factor, and understanding that by following what I feel like God had intended for me, that he would always provide for me and my family. And everyone thinks that I kind of just sat out the season, but I will tell you it's the most taxing year of my career to be waking up every single day, working 9 to 5, having multiple interviews and multiple discussions, sitting with legislation, meeting with different representatives while I was in DC. Like, it was a really taxing time, especially as we know this as like Black people, to relive our traumas, to relive those vulnerabilities of what it means to be Black, of what it means to fear for your life at the hands of people that are supposed to serve and protect you, the people that you pay to serve and protect you. I think it was just really hard all in itself, but looking back 5 years now, I'm really proud of myself. I'm still proud of that decision to sit out. I'm very proud of all the women that went into the Wubble, because each part of that was super intentional for making a change and making a way. So yeah, my God is so good, and he always provides and he always guides, and I just kind of sit in understanding that this game of basketball was meant to be intentional for my true purpose, which is to be a servant for my community and to others, and to also be a voice for the voiceless. So I really just see myself as a vessel. Every single night I get to step out on the floor. I get to be some type of role model. I get to give some type of hope. And then obviously with the power of our platform, we get to have these moments in rooms. We get to have cameras on us all the time where we can actually talk about things that are plaguing the communities that we care deeply about. So yeah, that's it.
Amen to that, Tosh. So, Joanne, I want you to talk more about the work that GGE does. Jaylyn talked about being equipped with tools, and we shouldn't need to be equipped with tools to be able to navigate society in these spaces. But you work specifically with Black girls and gender-expansive youth. And we live in Brooklyn. The work that you've been doing for over 20 years, rooted in Brooklyn. Some might say that this is the most liberal city in the world. Why is this a focus for you? Why are young Black girls and gender-expansive youth such a focus for you? What would you say to that? And then also speak specifically to the steps that you take to make sure that these young girls, these gender-expansive youth, are really equipped with the tools that they need to navigate and become leaders.
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to shout out the team, the GGE team that's here. Can y'all raise your hand? All right. And take a look, because we don't do this alone, right? When I founded GGE, I thought it was going to be a fellowship for 18 months through Open Society Foundation. I was going to identify all the Title IX coordinators in New York City, 1,700 schools, 1.1 million students as the umbrella, and it was Girls for Gender Equity in Sports. And at the center of the sports were basketball, and it was very much about instruction, and it came from listening to young people. I did a needs assessment, and Black girls who were sitting on stoops, not going to parks, were saying, I want a safe place to play. I want a way to make money. And these are like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old girls. I want a way to make money, and I want to have fun, right? So like just a basic, not feel afraid, right, to be out in their community, a place that is intentionally creative for them, right? Because when I asked, why aren't you on the court? Because I grew up playing sports, so I'm like, it didn't make sense. You're a kid, and it's like, no. And then I understood, right? The sexual harassment that happens on the court, the way in which the degradation, if you're not good, right? And that's why we started instructional. It's like, this is just about having fun. This is about your bodily autonomy. This is about taking up space. We started with girls who were 7 years old, went to 12, and then now we work with young people 14 to 24. And at the core of it was a Black feminist lens and an understanding that without that understanding that when and if Black girls are served in ways in which at every level they should be, everyone will be better, right? Because under these conditions, right, we have been amazing. We have held up this world in ways that reparations are owed, right? And not just us, right? Our ancestors, and historically, anything that you do, you include Black women and girls, and it is made better culturally. It is made better emotionally. It is made better and inclusive because we bring our families with us. And so Girls for Gender Equity was that space, an intentional space to create the conditions where Black girls can thrive, where they would not be invisible, where their voice and their strategy and their all of the identities that they came with were honored. The difference that Audre Lorde talks about really shaped Girls for Gender Equity. I'm a Black grown woman. I came out at 18, and I understood as a Black queer Haitian woman, right, the ways in which navigating the world, seeing my mom navigate the world, impacted me, and I felt fortunate to have survived it, but also felt like it would be complete with others. And so creating the conditions for Girls for Gender Equity in sports, and then Girls for Gender Equity, because people didn't get it. We were a little ahead of our time around, the intersectionality of it all, and understanding that, no, it's not just about sports, which if it were, that's enough. But 23 years later, here we are, right? And the work that we do has shaped policy. We've shifted legislation from Encourageable Act, the Crown Act, right? The right to have the hair that grow out of your head, not be a public nuisance or discriminated against for it. Encourageable Act, the right for young people to not be called, to not be called out on their advocacy, especially in schools and especially in juvenile detention centers, and seen as, okay, you continue to need supervision, so you're gonna stay, and because you're encourageable, you're gonna stay within this facility so we can supervise you. And oftentimes it's gender expansive and very butch girls who were, Black girls who were impacted by the Encourageable Act in that language. And so shifting that language, removing that as an option within juvenile detention centers, in courts, and within schools. And then most recently, our dress code bill, which, oftentimes the ways in which Black girls dress, even during school, having the same school uniform, accommodated their body. And their body then was seen as a threat. So that over-sexualization of Black girls in schools often led to them being disciplined and discriminated against, because then they would get suspended. And when they get suspended, well, that's harder for them to get in college. And so what the dress code bill does is now starts to track these disparities. And that's just our policy work. We do direct service, so we have young folks in here who have benefited from the work that we've done, but also staff that meet young people where they are in their youth development stage, and really pour into the joy and innovation. We listen, they listen. Like GGE was started off of listening and continues to grow and be shaped by the listening and hearing and seeing of what Black girls need. We're a diverse staff because we also understand that allies have to be here for us. It is not just, who sat out this weekend from marching? Like, it's not just up to us to change the material conditions, and Black feminism is for everyone. And so the folks who work at GGE embody that, bring that, and help shape our young people into the leaders that they are today.
Thank you for all the work that you're doing. So Jaylyn, I want you to share more about your criminal justice and corrections degree and what inspired you to take that path. This is, for those who aren't aware, this is Jaylyn's second season in the W. So she actually went undrafted in 2024, and then we re-signed her, or signed her, and then she won a championship with us. So she's a walking testimony about never giving up on yourself, but also never settling. And then also staying ready so you don't have to get ready, And so, and as Black women, as Black people, we don't have that privilege of just kind of like chilling, So Jaylyn, just talk to us a little bit more about your decision to continue to pursue your education, even after making it to the league, winning the championship, and, just being dope overall.
Well, I would start with, a lot of it came from my childhood. I grew up in a single parent household, and my mom was heavy academics. I don't know a person in my family that played basketball. My uncle did. But like my mom wasn't, it was all school. So it got to the point where, like, I wasn't a bad kid, but it got to a point where, like, my mom pulled me out of basketball alone, and she was like, you got to get right. Like, you got to get the off-the-court stuff right. You're great on the court, but it's more to life than just basketball. So I think that was instilled in me very early on. And it doesn't, my mom's a chemist, so, like, it's real, like, school is, is it. It was it. So yeah, I think a lot of it came from my mom and just seeing her. And I think, you know, as a kid going through it, I was like, why am I doing all of this? And you so hard on me and this and this and that. But as an adult, I understand, like, this blessing that I get to do every day could be gone in an instant. And so I'm grateful that she applied, I guess, pressure in the sense of taking school seriously and just taking life outside of basketball seriously, because, like I said, it could be going tomorrow. And a lot of athletes and a lot of people that I talk to in my position, when you play a sport and that's your life, you struggle, you know, when real life, quote unquote, happens. And so in terms of school, I don't know. I went to Colorado knowing that I wanted to get a master's degree. That was a part of, honestly, the reason I went there. I started with psychology, and they had a 3-year psychology program, and in the 4th year you would get your master's. So that's where it started, and then Colorado took the psychology program away, so that's how I switched to sociology. And I think at Colorado it kind of just manifested, I think, into learning so much about just society as a whole and people. And Colorado's you could be on the right side of Colorado, you can be on the wrong side. So I just being there, and the people there, they just really supported me, and they were really there for me. And we went to so many protests and prides, and it was just very inclusive. Honestly, it was a shock to me, being from Alabama, to be in a space that was so inclusive, and being in a space that was so just accepting of so many people from different walks of life. And I crossed over my first year with leadership, just because I wanted to know how things worked, how businesses worked, how to put myself in rooms and be in conversations, and that really helped. And then criminal justice, I think really stemmed from being from Birmingham, honestly. I think last time I did the statistic, we're the 3rd most murderous city in America. So that has affected me throughout my life. My brother passed from gun violence, so it was just always around me. And so I just wanted to get into something where I understood, like, the whys and the trends, and I could go all day and be a nerd about it, but just understanding, like, life and how people end up in these situations. Because I think so many people who look from the outside in will say, oh, well, that's just a bad kid. Or I've heard it in working with youth, like, people are so quick to write off youth, and I don't understand why, because they're kids. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. What you don't know, like, you really don't know. So I spend so much time working with youth, because they don't get to see, especially in Birmingham, you don't get to see a lot of people like me, or athletes that actually make it out, or people that actually, like, it's sad, honestly, but I think that's really what inspired me to actually take it serious and go somewhere with it. Because you really, when you're in a situation where things don't make sense, you tend to do things outside of the character. I've found with kids, and so you have to make it make sense for them. And I think that's our job, and I think that's something that I take very seriously in my work and what I do, because they need an avenue, they need a path. And so it just really important to me, and yeah, it just took off from there. So I've done a lot of my studies on it and just finished my thesis on it. So yeah, it was exciting.
Do you see politics in your future? Politics? Yes.
It's just, I think I am very aggressive in my language, and just in how I move in general.
You are so soft-spoken right now.
I know. That's the crazy part. But, like, I don't know, the passion and things that I really, like, care about, it lights a fire under me. And so
We see it on the court all the time, but I think there is a way to galvanize that passion and that fire and implement change. I mean, you're already so passionate about it, you know, and I mean, you're still young, which is so inspiring to see and hear you speak about this in the way that you do. And you have many more years in this league ahead of you, but also can't wait to see where you end up once, you know, you hang it up, because I think, you know, for someone to be your age and to be so aware, it's like that's what we need. And for you to already be giving back to the youth, when some people could look at you and say, you're just a youth, you know? So I commend you for everything that you're doing. So thank you.
Can I just say something?
Yes, of course.
You're a possibility model, right? You're the reason, like, we're here. I said Gigi works with 14 to 24-year-olds. You're not 24, right? That thesis is a book. That thesis is a book. It is what we need, and just thank you.
Thank you for that. Tash, I'm gonna come back to you because you mentioned, you know, that there are some people that just expect you to shut up and dribble. Obviously, there's an emotional toll that comes with being an athlete, but also an advocate or activist who is committed to using their platform. Talk to us about, you know, that emotional toll that we probably aren't even aware of. And then if you could speak to fans or media, like what would you say to them in order for them to better understand where you're coming from and then, you know, potentially support you more? I feel like you're very well supported, but yeah, just talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that it stems from when I was younger too. Like, I could never stand a bully. That is like the most simplest terms. I could never stand a bully, whether it was in elementary school and me standing up for kids that were getting picked on for being different or other than, because I just truly believe everyone is intended to be as they are, and they are perfect in God's eyes, right? So that kind of traveled with me. And as you get older and as you go into the world, you truly see how the world and society functions. And it's like, damn, a lot of this shit is set up to see us fail. Mm-hmm. Most of this stuff is set up to see us fail. And I think I had a really different upbringing of being raised in an all-white family and being the only mixed race one. And I used to always call myself a gray area kid because I was never white enough. I was never black enough. So I had to figure out what that gray area was and figuring out who I was as a mixed young woman, obviously growing up and understanding that I'm really proud to be a black woman and to be a gay black woman. But John Lewis said, getting into good trouble, that's the best type of trouble. And I think being in DC for the first 8 years of my career and being in the central place of politics made me understand how powerful not only being in DC was at that moment, but also this platform that we have, again, as professional athletes to really implement change and change narratives. Now, what I had to figure out is what Jaylyn just said, right, of like, I'm really passionate, I'm very fiery. I think it's my Philly bluntness, too, of like, y'all know that shit wrong. I don't understand. Even like where we are today is like, we can all see from a humanity standpoint that where we are as a country is completely wrong. And so for me, I made mistakes younger in my activism that I won't necessarily will say mistakes, but I think I turned a lot of ears off because of my bluntness and because of, you know, my ability to just be like, this is very black and white to me. Like, humanity is very black and white to me. And then shifting of the last few years of tapping into my water opposed to my fire is, how do I now articulate, how do I use the correct verbiage? Because I can't keep getting doors shut in my face for rooms that I have to be into to actually implement change, because I turned people's ears off of how blunt I was. So how can I meet them on a more human level? And so my point is to always get to sit in front of people. You can't know me and tell me that you hate me without like self-accountability for whatever bias or racism you have, because I truly meet people with light and love, and I feel like it's just what my parents taught us. Whether you're the CEO of a company or the janitor of the company, you treat everyone with the same respect, the same dignity, the same morality. And that's just kind of how I go into my everyday life. But I think that we're in a really unprecedented time in our country right now, and I'm going to continue to stand on business. But all of this is so draining mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I talked about it earlier of we all know what it means to relive our traumas and that hurt and our vulnerabilities, to constantly put our heart on the line, to be kicked half the time. You know, it's a lot, but understanding that this is the purpose that God intended for my life and for my career. And I have a really good support system at home with my girl, with my family. So when I leave these doors, I always tell people, you don't see me, because I am intentionally recharging and refilling my bucket so that I can come in the next day and be the point guard that I need to be, but to also be, I think I call myself the people's poppy that I need to be. But I just understanding that there was a real big shift in 2020 away from representatives understanding that they weren't necessarily doing their part of what we put them in office to do. They weren't fulfilling their oaths to their constituents. And so there was a shift to your favorite athletes, to your favorite celebrities, and that brings power. And I feel like for the intersectionality that makes us us, it would be a disservice for me not to utilize this platform in the best way that I can. So I'm going to continue to stand on business. I'm going to continue to surround myself with people that can put me in the right rooms and put me with the right grassroots organizations, et cetera. But it is very taxing, but heavy is the head that wears the crown is a thing that I've always kind of gone with. And I'm not saying that I wear a crown or anything, but in this fight for justice, I will always wear that crown if it's need be.
You a queen. Thank you so much for that, Tosh. I have a question for all three of you, actually. So when we think about the W or women's sports, we think about it being extremely progressive. But what do you think needs to, or what shifts need to occur culturally or structurally to support athletes as people?
Everybody looked at me, okay. Support athletes as people.
Yeah.
I have this belief, and some people disagree with me, but I have this belief that you can't change a system that was never built to include you in it. You like it's not really like, it's not feasible to me. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. I'm a very logical thinker, and how can I fix a system that I wasn't even supposed to be included in? That doesn't make sense. So the one side of me says tear it down and rebuild and do it the right way, because as much as we pour into it, as much as we talk about it, unless we have people that actually are about what we're talking about, it never changes. You just keep going in circles. So I think realistically, because of course we're not going to tear it down and start over, but I think realistically it comes from putting the right people in places that actually have the power to do what we're asking them to do. Mm-hmm. I think so many as athletes, and I've only been in this league for 2 years, but I think just being an athlete in general, so much of it comes from having people make decisions that don't know what it's like in the daily lives of what we go through and who we have to be. And we sit here talking about being black and gay and having to do all of this. Like, it's so many people in this system that don't even understand what it is to walk out and be in spaces where you feel like you're not accepted because you're not dressed to a certain standard, or you're not accepted because of how you talk and the way it's not understood. So it's kind of hard to ask for change in spaces where people can't even meet you halfway because they just don't understand you. And I think that's another thing. Grace is needed in a lot of these spaces, because I feel like assumptions are quickly to be placed, especially on black women, where grace is needed to actually meet people where they are. Because I had to learn, like, people don't talk like me in Colorado. People don't talk like me in New York. Like, y'all, sorry, are a little, it's different up here. Like I remember my first couple like weeks up here, I was saying yes, ma'am, and I had to let that go quickly. I was like, cause man, what? Cause I go to my grandma and don't say yes, ma'am. I'm in trouble. So, just really understanding to meet people where they are. I think a lot of grace is needed right now on both sides, not just expecting other people, but us too, to know that this is a process and people are learning. And one thing about it is you have people that want to learn. Those are the people you really want to talk to and communicate with, because you can tell that they're trying. They might not always get it right, but if you have somebody actively trying, then you can get somewhere with that. So that's what I'm saying.
Tosh?
Exactly.
I said, when you think about the W or you think about women's sports, there's this idea that it's a very progressive league, or that women's sports is very progressive.
Yes.
But what do you think needs to shift or change structurally, systemically, culturally, to truly give the support to athletes as people, not just as athletes?
Ooh, that is a really deep-rooted question. I think that I said this to someone the other day. When I came into this league, it was the New Yorks, it was the Minnesota, it was the Swing Cashes, it was the Simone Augustus and Sylvia Fowles and Maya Moore that really stood on business when we needed them to. And when I was coming in as a rookie, I was like, damn, this is the blueprint of our league. Like, we really do stand on every social issue, no matter if it takes food out of our families' mouths, whether it takes money out of our bank accounts, or whether it literally jeopardizes our professional careers. Like, this is what we do. I will say that in 2020, we saved democracy, and I will tell you, since 2020, I feel like we've taken a shift to kind of put the business side of the W first, which understandably, right, as a business, we want this to grow. But in that, we cannot, I don't know how to best say this, we cannot give up our morality, we cannot give up our humanness for some money. And I think that is, that is like the most blatant way to put it, but I would like us to shift back into being that beacon of hope, because I think that you could talk about other sports, but I'm talking about the W, because the W has always been it. And so we will continue to shift narratives, continue to do that. But I do think we need to get back to what that blueprint was. And I think it is getting out into our communities, galvanizing. And I don't need permission as an athlete to tell you what I feel as a human being. Like, we're all sitting up here as educated women. I don't mean this as a knock, but this is not the NBA. We get our degrees. So I mean that in like the most respectful way. We are educated women. And so we know what it means to, like Jaylyn said, walk out our doors and be black and be women and be gay. And for someone to continue to turn their ears off to what our truth is, I think that's asinine. I think I don't think there's any empathy or sympathy behind it. So if I told you what needed to be changed, I think rooms like this where people are open and willing to listen to another person's truth, and for the first thing out of their mouth not to be, you're lying, or that's cap, or whatever you want to say it is, like, to really resonate with their stories, with their backgrounds, and figure out at that moment, how can we come to a common ground? I think it's the biggest thing I've learned within businesses. The best businesses make everyone feel like they won. So how do we make now everyone feel like they won? It's not realistic to tear this system down. It's not realistic to tear our Constitution apart, but it is realistic to update that thing. It absolutely is realistic to update that thing, because we can go through a lot of things, and it wasn't meant for anyone other than white men, right? So even in that in itself, it needs to be changed. But again, I think what Jaylyn said about the grace and being able to be open to one another and understand that the diversity and DEI, it makes us so beautiful that everybody's walk of life, while may be different, is intentional and so beautiful. And how can we meet them with where they are? How can they meet me with where I am? And then how can we move forward together?
Would you have anything to add to that?
As a spectator?
You have some roots in sports.
Yeah. I mean,
And you're a fan.
definitely.
Yeah.
I will say, oh, I'm sorry. I will say, as watching, one, seeing the New York Liberty, be reflective of, Black women, women of color, intergenerational. That is growth. Like Marsha has been with us 20 years. She was a former board member and board chair, and she saw what the Liberty was, 20 years ago. And she had her 2 sons and her wife, and like they were always season ticket holders. But the ability for folks to, be queer and proud and in the stand and not fear, right? We didn't have Barclays at the time, but not fear then, going home or being attacked, right? That was just known, that you just have to watch your back, and you could cheer while you're there, but the minute you're out and it's Brooklyn, right? Then you need to watch your back. So when I think of the conditions that you've created here, the growth is seen. And at the same time, I think more players being in the positions to make the decisions as they retire, right? To have pathways of leadership and job opportunities that are filled by people who have played before. Because I even look at some of the coaching, like how is it not all WNBA players coaching when you have such talent in the league? And so I know that's not just a New York Liberty thing, so just systemically, I think, creating those conditions, but also leaning on us. I think that the New York Liberty has a rich community here that will write the letter, that will sign the petition, that will show up. If some of the demands that I see and hear the younger players asking for now, I don't know all the terminology, but I did hear Cheryl Swoop say, ask for retirement funds for us. Like, why would Cheryl Swoop need retirement funds from the WNBA? It's Cheryl Swoop's, right? Like, she should have that. That should be a given. And so, and that's in every field, right? But to see it in a field where their lives are under a microscope, they're sacrificing their bodies in ways that we would never understand, not being professional athletes, right? That day-to-day grind, we would never get it. We weren't cut like that. They were. It's reserved for a few. And those few deserve then the health care and the benefits and not have to do that for the rest of their lives. Their careers are short. They should have then, within the sport itself, in the league itself, 10, 15 years, Diana Taurasi is not ready to retire. She still has 20, 30 more years to give us in the sport. And so the reality is those paths towards leadership and decision making, I think, need to be paved for athletes who know what it takes to do this work day in and day out.
So my second to last question, Tosh, Jay, this is directed at you. So Tosh, you mentioned when you came into this league, you saw, the Swing Cashes, the Simone Augustuses, all of them, Maya Moore, who really led the way and showed you, what this league represented. You're sitting next to Jaylyn. She's 2 years into this league. So what would you tell her now that you're the vet?
I know, I'm old, huh?
Yeah. Think about, what,
I'm fine wine.
how your advocacy, how you want your advocacy to inspire that next generation of players.
I think Jay already has it in her, and that shows with her degrees. It shows with even everything that she's touched upon. I think that she's been directly affected, which makes her really passionate about implementing changes. And I would say to Jaylyn, there's no right way to go about activism. I already said that today. I'm loud, you're very subtle in your approach to it, but there is such a articulated understanding of our systems. There's such an education behind it that you're going to continue to utilize your platform and figuring it out. But I know that whenever my career is done, I will be so proud that I did it my way, that I never shied away from standing up for the communities that I care deeply about. And I think that's the biggest win for me throughout my career is I really just tried to be a servant to my community and to others. And the accolades, the championships, the amazing teams that I've been on along the way, that was the blessing, right? That's the blessing. But the real blessing is to have impact on people's lives. And so Jay's going to continue to do that. You're going to continue to have that. But just understanding that your path is different than a lot of other people's, that God intended you to do this work. And this work isn't for everybody, but I know you're going to galvanize too because you're a natural leader.
Anything you want to say, Jay? You good? You don't have to say anything. I was just, Okay. Okay. All right, so the final question, ending on a positive note, and especially because BetterHelp is one of our partners. Talk to us about self-care, what protecting your peace looks like. Tosh, you touched on it a little bit, but would just love to hear that, especially as we're all navigating busy lives. There's a lot going on in the news. You know, how do you silence all of that to make sure that you're also prioritizing your peace? Joanne, I'll start with you, and then we'll go down.
One, I just want to thank y'all for recognizing us. It takes courage during a time during DEI, and we see what this administration is doing. Even as a nonprofit, we have to have lawyers available to us. We are, fearful of the end goal always being changed. Look at what just happened with country music, and it's like, the finish line is always changed. Beyonce won
Moving
the
the
Grammy.
goalpost.
You move the goalpost, right? And so it takes courage to do that, and it takes really a clear vision and, audacity and gumption. And so know that we stand with y'all, and our community stands with y'all, but that we see y'all and appreciate y'all. And it means the most coming from the people who look the most like you, who aren't just climbing, and are bringing you with them. So thank you for that. And that also is my balm, I will say, because Black women save my life every day, are the reason I get up as my 2.5-year-old Black daughter, my wife, my mom, my sisters, right? And when I think of the young people in this next gen, Susuela right here, right, as Lita, is the reason also we're here. She came to an event that I couldn't come to and met Allie and was just like, made it happen, right? And so, yeah. You want to stand up real quick? Susuela! Hey! She's a humble rock star. We just came from New Orleans. We went to the Black Feminist Futures Reunion conference, and it was just life-giving, and did a workshop. But with better health and mental health, I will say, it is something we prioritize with our healing justice work within GGE also. If you think about it, 25 years ago, those students were going into 9th grade, right? So they just graduated. That's what you're experiencing. So that's a whole different workforce. I couldn't even imagine in high school, experiencing it online, but then also experiencing it with an endemic, and then graduating into a world that's very different, and especially now in the political space. And so it's extremely important to us that within our organization and work, that mental health is taken seriously and treated, and seen and understood. We have Wellness Wednesdays. We take 2 weeks off during the middle of the year. We take 2 weeks off at the end of the year. And we do what we can as a nonprofit to pour back into our staff and team, but also to create models for other organizations and ourselves around healing justice and the ways that we can rejuvenate from having to prove ourselves on a day-to-day and prove that our lives matter too. And so that's some of what we do as an organization.
And you personally?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I was telling Susuela, like, I went hiking, and had my baby on my back, and that felt really good. I have to get better. I'll say that, right? So therapy is good. I'm a social worker, so I love therapy. Therapy's lifelong, healing's lifelong. And I'm learning to pace myself, right? I couldn't go to that event. I passed it, right? And look, she took it and she scored. So
saying no.
Yeah, saying
no. Yeah, work on saying no. Yeah.
Okay. No, I will work on that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jaylyn?
We go to therapy.
We do go to therapy. I had therapy today. I think for me personally, well, first in general, I would like to say the best ability you have is your availability. And I think so many times, I was told that as an athlete, like taking care of yourself and getting into treatment and all of that, but I think that applies to life in itself. And if you're not available for yourself, you cannot be available for anything else you have. So I think I just kind of had to hone into that. I think this is the first time in my life that I can remember, like, I don't have nothing to do outside of practice and basketball right now. And honestly, at first I was losing my mind, and I was like, what do? I don't have school. I actually started looking into programs, and I was like, no, you actually have to take a break and just enjoy where your feet are and enjoy life. And I think that was won a championship, but that also was the biggest blessing that came out of last year and getting cut. I think I was always a planner. Like, I knew what I wanted, and I went after it. And when I got cut from the WNBA, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, and having to go back home on top of it and have to look people in the eye who depended on me and who were cheering me on, and I had no answers for them for about a month and a half. And I think more than anything, God really taught me to be where my feet are and just enjoy life for what it is. And you might not ever I knew I would play basketball again, but being here and when it was unknown, it was just like you just have to wake up every day and keep going. And I think that tested my mental fortitude. So therapy helped, and just leaning into the people that were around me. So even this year now, like, I was outside riding bikes with my teammates last year, and stuff like that. It's just enjoying the people that are around me, because I'm here for a reason and they're around me for a reason. And why wouldn't I lean into Tosh? Why wouldn't I lean into all these people? So I would say for me, that's really what is helping me right now, because like I said, not having school, I haven't had school in 8 years, so I don't know what to do, but
That's all you've been antsy for sure.
yeah, so I do everything. Like, I found hobbies, and I found people outside of basketball too, because that's important to have. And so I would definitely say being where my feet are and leaning to the people around me has helped me, and just understanding, I am more than just basketball, and I am more than just what I do we don't work a 9 to 5, but a 9 to 5.
Yeah, them days before 9 to 5.
So yeah, I would say that's how I kind of have leaned into taking care of myself and being better about it too, and being vulnerable in it as well, because I'm an only child, so it's nothing for me to stay in my house all day and be isolated and not get out. We actually was talking like how we got to get outside.
We gotta get outside.
We got to get outside.
This rain not helping though.
No. But no, Nene dragged me out the house yesterday, so I appreciated it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tosh?
Yeah, I agree with be where your feet are. I'm a firm believer in you can't pour from an empty cup, and so trying to prioritize filling your empty cup as a Black woman is very, very hard. Even it took me like 3 years to even accept therapy as like an alternative, because as athletes we're really just told, and we know this as Black women too, like, man, rub some dirt in it and keep your shit moving, like, and just pray about it. That was the biggest thing too, like, just pray about it. And I love my God, but there are some things that you really do have to be able to talk through and be able to be vulnerable with and honest with, and I'm 33 now, and I think the biggest thing that I learned is in some way, shape, or form, we're all trying to heal our inner children, and being accountable for that as well, a part of my growth and evolving. But yeah, I think I surround myself with people, like-minded people that really help me fill my cup. I talk often about I really do deplete myself a lot of days at practice, because my job is to give. As point guards, our job is to give energy, our job is to give leadership, all those things. So when I go home, hanging out with my dogs is a big self-care thing for me. We go to Fort Greene Park, they love it. That's been really big for me. I love sitting and coloring. I know it's a childish ass thing, but I'm such a hyper, I have a little bit of ADHD, y'all. I know, my energy. So to be able to actually sit and do minute detail things is really big for me as well, to be present with where my feet are, and to just kind of take myself out of the randomness of our days. And then I love that I joined book club with our team this year. And I don't read. Like, I don't read. Jaylyn loves school. I was like, I'm E for eligible for the game. Do you feel me? I am going to get this degree, but I am E for eligible. I'm E for eligible. So reading has never been my thing. Sometimes with reading, I have narcolepsy. Like, I open that page and I'm like, man. But it has truly, like, excited me to then go on our team bus, and as we're heading to our charters, like, we sit and we talk about it, and we're like, ooh, I think this idea is going to happen, or I think they going to do this. And obviously it helps our team camaraderie, but they don't even know, like, there are also healing parts of me that are going through a really traumatic time right now with where we are in our country. I feel that shit. I know y'all feel it too. We feel it in our everyday lives, and whatever individual battles you go through, you feel. So I think surrounding yourself with your tribe is really important. I think saying no when you need to refill your cup is okay. But I think it's really important for all women, especially, but all people, but you know, we love women real bad. I think it's really important for us to make sure we prioritize us. And I know a lot of y'all have children in here too that also deplete your cups. It's okay to go take a spa day. It's okay to go eat by myself. Is something I tried lately too. That was something I was scared of, but I'm starting to go out and like be okay with being with myself and being in my own thoughts. So yeah, just prioritize yourself, because for all of us, there are so much weight on all of our shoulders to take care of a lot of people, but you can't take care of other people if you can't take care of yourself, right? So yeah. And I also want to say, I think it's really cool, and it has been really cool for me to see both of you in very high positions for our organization. I've never had that. I've been in, this is my third team, this is my third organization, and to truly see from an opposing player how you guys have reshaped and remolded this organization into everything that it is today. We are spoiled for everything, all the work that you have done, so that we just get to keep the main thing. So I'm really appreciative of having strong Black leads
Thank
for
you.
us as well.
This is our CEO, Kia Clark, our fearless leader. Yes.
Can I ask you, how do you do it? And can I ask Kia, how do you do it? How do we do it? Take care of yourself.
I work out. I need to get a good sweat in. So that's very, very important to me. Carving out time to spend with my nephews, even though they're at that age where they don't care if I'm around, but just being in their space and their energy really excites me and helps, pour into me. Just even I drive to work, which is New York City traffic can drain you, but I use that time to talk to my parents who live in North Carolina, and 45 minutes to an hour, that really fuels me. It fills my cup, so, and I'm really blessed to have an amazing relationship with my family. So anytime I'm able to spend time with my family, that really fills me up. I have an amazing boss who I can, just be honest with. When I'm having a bad time at work, I can be really honest and transparent with her about what I'm experiencing. And I really count that as a luxury, especially in corporate America, especially in sports, because, it's still a very majority white male dominated space. And even us, like you mentioned it, you haven't worked for a team where a front office looks like ours. So I do not take that for granted at all. This being able to work where I feel seen and, an organization supports my personal values. And we mentioned how, we're in a dire time right now, but to be able to put this panel on with the support of our CEO, with the support of others in the organization, that means a lot. That means everything to who I am as a Black woman. And so, so every day I just count it all joy that I get up to advocate for you and work for the two of you, and everything that I do is not for me at all. It's really because I believe that you as athletes deserve to play in a league where you're supported, your voices are amplified, you're encouraged to speak up, we treat you like champions, you know, even before you won, you came here. We recognize that as professional athletes, you deserve a certain level of treatment. And so that's something that, you know, me and my team, like, we really take that responsibility seriously, and thankful to you for recognizing that. So thank you.
And I'll just add, first off, thank you for this amazing discussion, for your vulnerability and honesty and just deep thought and education. Like you said, the W is, we educated over here. So this is the reason why we wanted to do this type of event, not on a game day. Because as Shana said, we've been running this type of programming since 2016, but oftentimes players aren't able to be involved, and you have so much to share and so much to enlighten and uplift and really give aspirational tidbits to people. So thank you. And thank you as well. We're super excited to be playing for GGE and everything that it represents. To answer your question, it's a work in progress every single day. I will say, for me, music is my outlet. I've shared this before. I'm an aspiring DJ. So when I can't get on the turntables on my very long commute from Jersey to Brooklyn every day, it's music. It's YouTube, it's Apple Music. I'm not on Spotify. People laugh at me all the time, but I go everywhere from gospel to Sly and the Family Stone to jazz. I'm everywhere, and that takes me someplace else, and that's what I need for me. So that's how I do it. I'm an Aries. A March Aries.
I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you, Joanne, Jaylyn, Tosh, for being on our panel. I hope all of you are able to take something positive away from today's conversation. Once again, I want to thank our partners, BetterHelp, for supporting our panel and also being so generous with the 3-month free therapy. Because, I mean, who doesn't need to take advantage of that? And once again, thank you, Kia. Thank you to Crown Club for hosting us on a dark day. And everyone else that was involved in this event. So thank you all for being here. And there will be cocktails, I believe. Yes, beer. Okay. Yes, in the other room. So thank you.
Thank you, Shana.
Thank you for literally giving us our flowers.